Hey, I'm Audra Carroll, and this is Coming in Hot, where my guest and myself mostly talk about mindset theories and real practical ways that you can improve your lifestyle, your relationships, your health, and yourself. This week, we welcome Marie Davis. She is an amazing, tough as nails woman who has battled back from crisis, and she uses humor as her sword. I only wish I'd known her several years ago. I would be honored to call someone like her my friend. So let's just say it's a small world, and let's jump right on in. So I am here tonight with Miss Marie Davis, and we have had a fantastic and in-depth conversation about her whole entire life. And I really want to get down to the nitty-gritty and find out some about where does she find the hunger to keep her joy, no matter what comes her way. So with that being said, I guess I would love to start anywhere you would like to start at.
Okay. Well, I would say that my hunger for joy probably comes from the way that I was raised by my mom. She was, for the most part, a single parent. Now, my father was still involved in my life, but she just instilled in all of us, and there are 12 of us. She instilled in all of us that no one can steal your joy unless you allow them to. So I've kind of lived by that. I've tried to make that my mantra, really.
Now, growing up with 12 siblings, what was that like? Because I have 4 total. There were 4 of us. I had 3 siblings. That's a big difference.
It's a big difference, and we all were not at the house at the same time. There are steps and halves in there, but everybody has lived together at one point. You learn to share. That is the big thing. You learn to support each other. There was a period of time where the younger siblings were in like baseball and t-ball and things like that, and if mother couldn't be there, then there was always an older kid representative in the stands. So none of our family ever did anything without somebody else in the family supporting them. So that was a big thing. I mean, we really just kind of were our own little football team, basically. We had cheerleaders and we had football players, so we just kind of encouraged each other. I mean, don't get me wrong, there were still fights, obviously, with that many personalities, but we still stay very close. I mean, as adults even, we still stay very close, and me as one of the older ones, then a lot of my siblings looked to me. I was the caregiver for our mother when she was sick and before she passed away. So I kind of took on the matriarch role. Even though I have an older adopted sibling, it kind of fell to me to try to keep the family together as much as possible. And I took that role seriously because just because of the way we were raised,
Yeah. Speaking of the way you were raised, I have thought every time I've thought about this interview or I've looked at my notes, anything that has to do with speaking with you, I always actually go back to thinking about your mom and some of the wonderful things you told me about her. And I guess that I really took from our conversation that she really was a powerhouse when it came to teaching you guys how to stay connected, and I admire that, So what are some of the highlights, or some of the things that you can tell us that maybe you learned from your mom?
Well, let me go back a little bit to when she was a young child, even. My mother had a very tumultuous beginning. She was about a month old, and her mother was a raging alcoholic. Her dad was not much better, but he left her mom because of the alcoholism and some of the things she was doing. So she literally put my mom in a bassinet on a park bench in Camden, New Jersey, where my mother was born, with a note that said, if you find this baby, please take her to 604 Robinson Court, Texarkana, Texas. Wow. Well, this was in 1946. Different time. You could not, way different time. A very wonderful couple who she worked in a building, and that day her husband just happened to meet her for lunch, and they went to the park and they were having a picnic, and they saw this basket, and nobody claimed it. Nobody was around it. And the lady got curious and she went over, and my mom was asleep in the basket. So this sweet little couple got on a Greyhound bus and took my mother to Texarkana from Camden, New Jersey, to her grandmother's house. So my mother's grandmother raised her back in the 40s, when that was kind of different. That was taboo. That wasn't as common as it is now. Right. So she had kind of a rocky start, but she was loved so completely by my grandparents, my great-grandparents, that she never missed it. Now, she did get to know her older siblings later on, and her mom drifted in and out of her life, but she always stayed with her grandparents, and they gave her the best life she possibly could have had. Fast forward a few years, and my mom is on an iron lung because she has polio. They didn't think she would ever they didn't think she was going to live, much less ever walk again. And my mother not only walked, but ran marathons, rode bicycles, you name it. Later on, when she was older, she did have another bout of, she had leukemia, and it came back, and she coached t-ball from a walker. Wow. So she did not know the meaning of the word quit. And she instilled that in all of us. And we call them Lee-isms. My mom's name was Layla, but they call her Lee. She would say things like, you don't need a man to change your tire. You need to learn how to do it yourself. She had some other little gems of wisdom later on that maybe I cannot share with your listeners, but she was very open about how she was serious about empowering the five of us girls in particular. Now, the boys, obviously, she raised to be honorable young men and hold the doors for young ladies, and to honor women, honestly. And all of my brothers are very, very gentlemanlike. So, and they're
a note to her,
That's it, and for the most part, she raised us as a single parent, whether it was because of job, taking, our parent, other parent away, or, periods of time where she was actually single. But she made it her life's work to make sure that we were good people. Mm-hmm. And then when she got to the point where we were all grown, she took time for herself, which I do not, I don't condemn her for that at all. I think everybody needs to take a little time for themselves, a
Yes, we
little
should
bit along the
celebrate
way.
that. We really should celebrate
Absolutely.
it. Yeah.
Absolutely. One of her funny things, one of her Leeisms was Thanksgiving, when families normally get together.
Mm-hmm.
And she said, I raised you guys. You all have your own families. It's time for you to make your own traditions. I'm going on a cruise every Thanksgiving. And she did for like 15 years. Every Thanksgiving, we knew she was going to be on a cruise with her bowling buddies. But that was just a way of her saying, don't worry about me and the old traditions and what society says we have to look like as a family.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to do what's right for us.
Yeah.
And if it means that we're all together, and now we did get together, don't get me wrong. We just weren't together on Thanksgiving, we'd get together. And sometimes it would be the same with Christmas. If Christmas was crazy, when we all started having children, when Christmas was crazy, Mother's like, don't sweat seeing me on, December 25th. We can get together in January. And there were times when we got together at the first part of December, and there were times when
I thought that was going to happen to me. I literally thought that was going to happen to me. Love it.
That's my demon.
I got one too, and she's black as well.
That's one of them. He's a mess. But when it came to family get-togethers, we always made time for a family get-together, but it may not be on the calendar that everybody else in the world worked on. There were times when we did get together on Christmas and spend Christmas. But
I really appreciate you sharing that because I really appreciate that. My mother was the same way. I know that I put a lot of pressure on myself, especially when it comes to Christmas. I want to have everyone at my house. And I've kind of figured out what it is. I don't know. Maybe it's I'm recreating. Now we can get into some energy talk. Maybe it's because I'm recreating, at least I think that's what it is, moment from my childhood that I absolutely have adored. And it was once or twice my grandparents came, my grandmother, my maternal grandmother, and my step-grandfather came and stayed at our house like Christmas Eve night. And they were there the next morning when we opened gifts. And so that is actually the one tradition that I hold is now I don't get upset if they're not in town, but I beg my parents and my father-in-law. I'm like, just come stay. My father-in-law, well, he refuses. He's like, no, I'm good. I'll sleep in my bed. I'm like, just please come sleep at my house tonight. You don't understand. So I guess I'm trying to recreate something, but my mom has always made it that way. When I was married to my first husband and we had our two children and we were coming home to Texas from traveling, and of course everybody wanted to see you, and it felt like all those days were so important, and my mom was the first one to step up and say, no, that day does not make or break anything. The time that we have together is what is most important, not the day. And so she always made it a point to be the first one to even step back and go, you know what, kind of like your mom, like, look, you go take care of you and what you need to do, and I'm going to be here when you're ready.
Yeah.
I hope a lot of people
been that way with
that.
Both sides of the family, though. My husband's grandparents were married on Christmas Eve, so that is kind of like a high holy day for their family. So we've gotten together Christmas Eve, and they always open their presents on Christmas Eve. And that was one of those things for me, like, how do you do that when Santa hadn't come yet, But, they continue to open their presents on Christmas Eve, but as my family has gotten older and as siblings have gotten older, we stay at home Christmas Day now. And that's just been within the last maybe 2 years. We were kind of expected to be there on Christmas Eve and then go back again for Christmas lunch. And, and finally I was like, look, it's too much. My kids are grown. But my daughter is dating a young man that has a beautiful 2-year-old, and we want to be able to do things on Christmas morning as a family that way.
Yeah.
So I've had to kind of tap into my mom's strength and go, look, love y'all, married into you long time ago, but now it's time for us to form our own traditions. And I think that kind of was like a breath of fresh air to some of the other people in the family, because they were feeling the same thing, but they felt they couldn't say anything because they were actually blood kin, but here's this crazy Italian girl that's just going to speak her mind. So, they're like, Marie took care of that for us.
I love it. I mean, we got totally off subject, but I mean, I want to say, if this airs on the show and everybody, I hope that some of you that are at home watching this who are already stressed out about how you're going to handle the holidays, it's your holiday. Do what you need to do for yourself and for your family. No regrets. No regrets.
Absolutely.
It's
and
freeing.
I'm big on drawing on strength. Not only that was conditioned into me growing up, but just life experiences have given me other, places to draw strength from. And now I'm gonna admit this. There's times when I'm not strong. There's times when I just want to crawl in my bed, put the covers over my head, and, listen to sad music, Enya or whatever. But
we all have that playlist, right?
That's it. I want to, for myself, I want to limit those times. Now, I honestly believe it's healthy to allow yourself those times. Just like if you're on a diet, you got to allow yourself that cheat day or that cheat meal.
I mean, I totally agree, because life does not stop. We can be happy, but there's always, what am I trying to say? There's always negative and positive around us at all times, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So Absolutely. We can, and we're always, trying to stay even keeled or whatever, but there's only so much of that negative you can take before it does kind of start to wear you down a little bit. And I do agree. I think that there's freedom in the breakdown, because there's the breakthrough on the other side.
Absolutely. And everybody needs to just take that little woo-saw. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but a woo-saw is just a moment where everything just builds up and builds up and builds up. And then you just have to have that moment of like, okay, stop. That's enough. Universe, back up off me for 10 minutes and let me just take a breath. And whether it's you go out and commune in nature or whatever works for you to hit that reset button, or there was that crazy commercial going around a couple of years ago that started with the easy button. Whatever you need to do to hit your easy button to get things back on an even keel, that's your woo-saw moment.
Yeah.
For some people, it's, I know people that crochet, and that's their woo-saw, is they will have an Afghan knocked out in a minute, and that there's something going on. And there's other people that just like to go outside and just sit in nature. Mm-hmm. Now, I personally believe if God had intended me to be in nature, I would have been born a bear and not a mama bear. So nature is not necessarily my thing. I do ground. I do go and, put bare feet on the ground and spend time with the earth. But yeah, camping in a tent is not Marie's thing.
Oh, see, we don't come from the same tribe. I'm like, I want to be a hippie. I mean, I could just live outdoors. And I mean, I need a little bit of electricity and running water. Let me be clear. I'm not like totally down.
That was my family. Again, we were headed to Woodstock, I mean, my mom was a go-go dancer. She was a cage dancer when she met my dad. I mean, there was just, and he was in the military. So it was all of this, conditioning from the very get-go. And Mother and them loved to camp. And that was one of her things, was getting in nature and the positivity of nature. And that was her easy. easy button, or her reset button. And I told her, if you ever want me to camp with you, Mother, you're going to buy an RV and it's going to have color TV in it. So when I was I'd been out of school a couple of years, and my mother bought an RV just so I would go camping with her. Yeah.
I love that.
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
I just,
I wanted to ask you a question that we had not talked about before. And so I have no idea if you'll even have an answer for this one or not. But speaking of energy type things, we were going back to the things that your mom had went through, her health issues and things like that. Did she ever speak upon using positive energy or like that and connection to God to heal herself or anything like that? Just out of curiosity.
Well, I'm going to say two words, Roman Catholic. We were raised Roman Catholic, very devoutly. And I am still Catholic. I'm living in a house full of Baptists, but I am Catholic.
Oh my.
Yes,
that's my family right now. I was raised Southern Baptist. My husband, somewhere around the Baptist area, stuff like that. My sister married a Catholic.
Yes, it's a whole other ball game.
Oh, yeah.
But we share ideas. We try not to argue too much, but we are right there as far as religion goes. We do agree with a lot of the same tenets and all. But she definitely did. One of the things that she said really got her through those dark times of when she was on the walker, and she made it through having polio and being on an iron lung, and then something hits her again. She would stand in the mirror for 3 to 5 minutes every morning while she was brushing her hair, getting her makeup on, or brushing her teeth or whatever, and she would give herself positive affirmations. And she taught me, I think me, probably myself more than my 3 sisters, but I was really big on positive affirmations, and that's kind of what got me through a lot of medical stuff. But she taught us to put the spin on everything. Like, I hated to wear pantyhose. I absolutely hate pantyhose. Well, in the 70s, when you dressed up, you wore pantyhose. So, she would make up little affirmations for us to say as, although I dislike my pantyhose, I do enjoy the fact that I have legs to put in them. So she would, the silver lining was all about it in our house. So you could take something negative, but you had to spin it with a positive. Mm-hmm. And now this didn't come from my mom. Other people have said this, but she called them compliment sandwiches. And I try to do that when I'm working with students and working with clients. I'll give them a positive thing that they're doing, and then I'll give them something that they could work on, and then I'll give them another positive. Mm-hmm. So they're hearing, because we're leading into it with a positive, they're hearing the good stuff. So they're still tuning into you when you give them the thing they need to work on. And then you follow it up with a positive. So the whole message gets through better than, you really need to blah, 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 blah. Yeah. It helps things. And that's the way we handled really any trial in our life, Should I get into my medical stuff?
Yeah, I was about to say, we might as well go ahead, because when you were talking about that, I know just from our talks without us getting into it, I know how much you believe that the power of positive thinking heals the body. And so I just wondered if it had come from your mom, but yeah, absolutely. Let everybody know some of the stuff you've been through.
Yes, it did come from my mom, and it came from some counseling sessions also. I'm not too proud to say that I did go to counseling. And as a counselor, I think that is a very important thing to say. As a counselor, I've received counseling, so I know the process. And I've had little trials throughout my life, but probably the biggest one that people could uh, understand and completely take in is in 2015, I was diagnosed with cancer. That was my first go around. I am currently battling it again somewhere else. It's the same cancer. It's just metastasized somewhere else. But I would go and, I would tease the ladies that would do the chemo and say, hey, I hear y'all have the best cocktails in town. Hook me up, what's a sister got to do to get chemo around here? I was constantly joking with them, and it made some people that were going through some things mad that they thought I was being light, but then they realized that I'm going through it too. I think because I had all my hair and my hair actually grew during chemo, which my doctor said he's only had 2 people ever do that. A lot of people didn't understand that I was walking the same walk they were. My walk just looked different. I mean, we were still fighting the same dragon. I was just using different tools, and the positivity kept me going. And
it's interesting though how you said that. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No.
But I think it's important to highlight how so many people, when they're going through tough times, they have a hard time finding the joy. And that's so sad to me. I wish that more people could understand that finding the joy in life, in anything, that when something negative is going on, is always a good thing to help you battle whatever you're battling. It's not to make light of the situation. It's actually to celebrate the wonderful things, that you have going on, so that you don't forget that there's always great things around you. There's always something good there. I just wanted to highlight that. It's really, I feel really sad for those people who are in that position.
Well, and at my work, they were like, what are you doing here? You should be at home resting. I said, no, you don't understand. If I crawl in that bed, I'm not getting out. Mm-hmm. I've got to keep going. And my whole disposition, my whole job on this planet is to bless somebody else. And if I'm crawling in a hole somewhere and, oh, woe is me, number one, I'm not going to last very long. And number two, I'm not doing what I was designed to do. Mm. I was designed to help. I was designed to be a comfort. I was designed to lift up those around me. And if I'm down and, a friend of mine asked me if I wanted to go out to eat the other night, and I said, sure. And she said, you're not nervous to go out to eat? And, because I have cancer, I've got diabetes, I have thyroid problems, I have kidney failure. My body is systematically shutting down. And she said, are you not afraid? And I said, no, I'm good to go. I mean, yes, I have a healthy fear, but she said, well, I don't want you where you're not comfortable. And I said, girl, I am dying. We were going to eat Mexican food. And I said, the reality is I'm dying. Every one of us is dying. We're marching every day closer, but I might be running it. I was teasing a friend the other day that was in the military, so they kind of understood this. I said, we're all marching towards death. I'm just double timing it. So when I told her, no, I'm dying anyway. Might as well do it with a sopapilla and a margarita in my hand, So we went and ate Mexican food. I'm not, and I have a very healthy fear of the coronavirus. Don't get me wrong, and I have had it. And I think, like cancer the first go around, like everything else that has hit me, positivity and having a great doctor team got me through the coronavirus. Wow. And now I'm able to serve as an example to others. But I think if you only see the bad stuff, it's kind of that reap what you sow kind of thing. If all you're focusing on is the negative, then that's all that's going to come to you.
Yeah, I agree. It's so shocking to me, honestly, how many people out there do not realize that. Just do not realize that. I mean, I guess I shouldn't say I'm shocked. I was one of those living in that victim mentality for probably the majority of my life, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
And I feel so much freedom, which is interesting, from not identifying with that person anymore. And it's still a struggle. It's still hard because those paradigms are still there. I've got a lot of work still to do, you know, but the further I go along, and every once in a while, you know, you have to look back. That's something that I tried not to do. And then I've learned recently that every once in a while, in fact, I'm going to make a list. I think that would be the best thing to do. I'm just going to write a list of highlights. That's it. Just highlights from my life.
Yes.
Something that I can go back and reflect to when I feel down, because I have noticed that once I start to go down, if I don't catch myself very quickly, I will kind of tear at myself fast and hard, if that makes sense. It's like I go really hard to tear myself down and then go, whoa, wait, no, don't be doing that.
Yes.
You know?
Yes. And it's almost like your psyche is very much tied to your health. So if you allow your health to go down and don't take care of it, then your psyche is going to follow very quickly. You know, you begin to see how everything is negative. Can't stand those flowers. You know, they're causing my allergies to go crazy. Well, yes, they may be, but they're beautiful to look at. Mm-hmm. You know, I will sit on my front porch and sneeze and look at wildflowers until my husband mows the weeds down. But I will sit out there and enjoy those flowers just as long as I can, sneezing the whole way. I have this really funky food allergy. And it baffles doctors. They're like, we don't know why this is. And my son has the same thing. If we get too full, and I'm talking one bite past being full, I sneeze about 50 times. And there's nothing I can't, blowing my nose doesn't help it or anything. And you know what? I enjoy food. I'm a big girl. And I know this is going to cause me some strife, and I know I'm going to be sneezing. And during the period of coronavirus being out there, if you sneeze in a restaurant, people are going to run from you like you've got the plague. But you know what? I'm going to have that last chip and salsa. I'm going to eat that last bite of enchilada. I'm not going to waste it. I'm not going to waste life. And to me, food is life.
I'm telling you the little enjoyments. Oh my gosh, I realize so much as I keep going through and reevaluating myself on my growth path. Oh, how quickly I can get bogged down and obsessed with work and not allowing myself the time to just laugh.
Yes.
Enjoy. I want to absorb so much information right now, and I want to absorb way more information than what I can handle. I'll tell you that. And
yes.
God keeps slowing me down. Sometimes I don't like it, but he keeps slowing me down in subtle ways through my body or whatever.
Right.
Yeah. But, can you share with me maybe one of the ways, or with other people in particular, at like a particular way that you try to draw and raise your energy when you really feel that you're at the lowest, like when it's really hard to pull yourself out? Where do you go to? What do you have to do?
I do meditate and pray. That does help. But I do something physical. During the height of the stay at home, the first time, I did work from home, and I live in a house full of essential workers. So they were out all day. It was just me and the dog and the cat here at the house. And I'm just like, I catch myself talking to the dog and the cat and expecting them to answer back. And they're looking at me like, what? So then there was one day my husband came home, and I'd had some thoughts that had taken me to some dark places, not going to lie. And my husband came home, And he was like, I'm exhausted, sit down. And I said, don't take your shoes off. Because if you don't get me out of this house, we are going to be divorced. So we got in the car and we rode. We didn't get out anywhere. We didn't interact with anybody. And honestly, for a long time, we didn't even talk. We just were just there together. And, we've been together a long time, 4 decades. And married most of that. But we're still big on holding hands. We'll drive down the road and he'll be driving and we'll be holding hands. So there was a period of time during that ride that all we did was just sit there, be in the moment and hold hands. And, we rolled down the windows at one point and let the air blow through. So I try to do something physical to remind myself that, hey, you're not dead yet. You can still move around. Your legs are still working. You still got stuff going on. And there's other folks out there that have it worse than you. And sometimes that's hard for us to remember. If there's one piece of advice I could give your listeners, it's don't be afraid to cut the negative out of your life. If living in the Facebook world and the social media world that we do, I had to delete 2 friends today, and they're very dear to me. It's not that I don't like them anymore or anything. I just could not take the rhetoric anymore. I didn't delete them because I don't agree with their point of view. It was just they were so caustic in the way that they shared their views, and that if you didn't agree with them, you were stupid. And literally one of them said, if you don't agree with how I look at it, you're just sheep and you're following, the media or whatever. And I'm just like, I can't do this. I have too much. Now, some people would say, well, Marie, just get your butt off Facebook yourself. But I have people that I stay in contact with. I have family that live in Buenos Aires. I have family all over the world. And that's kind of how I keep up with them. So it's not fair for me to have to remove myself from positive things. I wouldn't get to see my great nephew's pictures. He's learning how to sing Metallica. He's 4. I love it.
Oh, that's awesome.
I don't want to miss that stuff. I have twin great nephews that are in Buenos Aires. They're learning to skateboard. They're learning to do karate. I don't want to miss that. And it's not fair for me to remove myself when I'm not being negative. But you have to be firm enough in your own convictions to walk away sometimes.
Yeah, I could not agree more. And it is so hard. I think it's harder to let go of people sometimes than it is negative habits even.
Absolutely.
Because we feel this obligation to help people. But I'm here to tell you, and I know that you can back me up, a person that's in a negative mindset can only change their mind when they decide they want to. So at a certain point, if someone is so negative and you keep putting positive out and they're not absorbing it, you need to protect yourself and don't allow your energy to be disrupted by theirs.
Yes.
Queen of that.
Yes.
So just throwing that out there. Do not feel bad about people on social media or even in person. Not necessarily, you don't have to cut people off. There's people that, my husband and I had this conversation. There's people in our lives that we've kind of grown apart from as far as where our growth is right now in just in the universe. And we're fine with that. But there's certain people that we know that we don't need to necessarily really be around. Just because their energy is so strong and they're so negative all the time. And then there's other people that we love so very much that we want to be able to help. And now it's that finding that healthy balance of not letting, when they are negative, it spill over and control, my energy and things like that. That's where I found myself this week.
Yes. I have a friend that, she has a radio show and she had a psychic on there this week and she's like, nobody's calling in. Can you please call in? So, she sent me a message and I was listening. So I called in, and just had a question, and it was like, the negative people that are around me, is it something I'm doing? Because I'll be honest with you, where I work, they jokingly call me the Black Widow, because every boss that I've worked for has been fired for one reason. Through nothing I've done, I have not thrown them under the bus. It's just downsizing and whatever. And when the dust settles, Marie's still standing. But I think part of that is because God has a plan, and He has me in the position that I'm in now, to be a helper to some of the people that we work with. But I asked her, I was like, this whole Black Widow thing has really started getting me down. And she said, well, you need to remember that it's okay to walk away. And sometimes as counselors, teachers, nurses, doctors, anybody that's in the helping field, or even just a good person, sometimes we forget that. Sometimes we forget that, if you put a piece of moldy bread in with a fresh baked loaf, eventually the loaf molds. And it molds quicker than it would if just left alone. By adding that negative piece in there, that rotten apple, that moldy piece of bread, that grody piece of cheese, if you put it in with the good stuff turns bad faster. That's a scientific that's scientific proof. But it's that way with people too. And I was blessed to have the upraising that I did, that I've been a big girl. My mama could have made fun of me, and, she could have called me names. And now she did encourage me to lose weight at different, and I encourage my children to watch their weight, because I've seen firsthand with diabetes what can happen if your weight starts affecting your body. So I'm not coming in at them as, you're too fat, you need to lose weight, you need to look this certain way, you don't look like the other kids. That's not my thing. My thing is, I don't want to lose you.
Yeah.
I don't want you to have bad health. And my daughter's 24, and I've told her that, this is no secret. She and I've had this conversation before. I'm not talking behind her back. She got to a point where she wasn't happy with herself. Now, the majority of her life, she was a size 0. She took the freshman 15 and the sophomore 30 very seriously in college. And she got to the size that a normal, healthy 20-year-old would be.
Right.
But she wasn't quite happy with the way she was. And I told her, if you're not happy, do something now, because when you're 50 and 60, it's almost impossible to get off. Not impossible, but almost. It's way harder. Mm-hmm. So I'd rather you be healthy heading into your 30s, because she's 24. I'd rather you be healthy heading into your 30s than having to struggle at 40 to get back a quality of life that, that you could have had the whole time. So that's kind of where the body images and stuff like that came from. Was, my mom would say, I love you just the way you are, but the reality is health things happen, Mm-hmm. And that was
one thing we cannot fully control, for sure.
Absolutely. But you got to keep a handle on it. And I think the best way to do it is to be positive, give yourself
grace,
give yourself those cheat days, but, stay on top of your health, because nobody else is going to. Actually went to a chiropractor this morning. It was my second visit, and they sat me down when I was waiting. Of course, everybody's socially distanced, and the chairs, it's like waiting for the principal now, because they're socially distanced. And they sat me in front of a TV, and it kept playing these positive affirmations of, you're in charge of your health. chiropractic doesn't add anything to your body, and it kept all these things. And then by the time I left there, I thought, my gosh, why hadn't I done this before? Because this falls right in line with what my beliefs are.
Yeah.
And one of the actual screens that cycled through said, doctors can't heal you, only you can heal you.
Mm-hmm.
They're there to give you the tools, but you have to be the one that heals yourself. And if it's putting a pill in your mouth, I'm not going to condemn you for that, but go out and take a walk. Yeah. Get in nature, get inside your body in a positive way.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to go ahead and say something that I've never really said it this way on this show before, but us talking about this, that is something that I truly believe happened to me. I believe that I unwittingly began to heal my body through my mind. Quite interesting. I still don't fully quite understand how to do it. I'm actually learning now by going back and watching a series by Dr. Joe Dispenza called Rewired. Have you ever heard of that?
Yes, I have.
I'm on like episode 11. My heart's like thumping fast. As soon as I start saying that show, I start like getting all excited.
Yeah.
But I'm starting to learn now that I didn't fully understand. I wasn't meditating back then, really. I was doing a little bit, and I didn't really have a super duper, I don't think, close relationship with God. But at some point, I got mad enough to realize that what was going on here in this world and what was happening to my body, I was doing to myself, or I was allowing to be done to me through the medications that I was on, and pulling myself away from them and everything. And now in hindsight, I've never gone and done the blood work. I have not yet. I will go and do it at some point, but I would love to go back and do the blood work and pull the markers, because I fully believe that it would show that I do not have the markers that they pulled for the autoimmune disease I was diagnosed with.
Right.
Yeah, I don't believe it. And I think that a lot of people, in fact, I think pretty much anyone has the capability of doing these types of things if they're able to, transcend. My
Absolutely.
viewers are really going to be like, what are you talking about? They've never heard me say transcend.
We went deep.
Yeah, we did.
That's the thing. Back in 98, I had brain surgery, and went for my checkup. It was 3 weeks or a month after the surgery, and I walked in and I sat down, was waiting for the doctor and everything, and the nurse came out and she called my name, and my husband was obviously there with me because I had the surgery in Dallas, which is about 2 hours away from where I was living. And the nurse called my name, and I got up and started walking to her, and she said, no, I need Miss Alice Davis. And I said, that is me. And she said, oh, okay. So we went on back and everything, and they put you in the room, and then you're kind of like, what was all that about? So I asked my husband, I was like, did I do something wrong? This is where we're supposed to be. She called my name, and he said, I don't know. Well, when the doctor came in that had done my surgery, he said, how in the world are you walking? We just took pieces of your brain out, and we took pieces of your abdomen and put them in the side of your head so your head wouldn't cave in. And they had removed all of the bones in my left ear. I'm completely deaf. They took all the bones out. There was no hearing left in that ear. And he said, you shouldn't be walking. I said, oh, is it going to hurt me if I'm walking? He said, no. Physically and medically, you should not be walking. I said, oh. He said, let's do some tests. And I don't know if you've ever seen those. They kind of are like a smushed ball for yoga that you stand on. It's just a round kind of flat
Yeah,
ball.
It's got like a disc on the bottom. Yes.
Yeah. Yes.
I don't know why I don't know what it's called.
That's it. We call them stunt stands because we used them in cheer to teach flyers how to stay stable. But he asked me to step on that, and he said, now hold on to the wall. So I held on to the wall, and he said, can you let go? And I was like, yeah. So I let go. And I was standing on both feet, and he said, "Can you raise one foot?" And I was like, "Yeah." So I was standing there on one foot on this wobble ball, and he was like, this is medically impossible. You cannot be doing this. This is not, you cannot be standing here." And I said, "Well," I told myself, my daughter was 2 at the time. I told myself, I have a 2-year-old, and she wants her mommy. She is very attached to her mommy, and still at the age of 24, she wants to know where mommy and daddy are at all times. I can't lift my daughter until I'm healed. So I made a deal with my body. We're going to heal. And we're going to heal quickly, so that by the time my daughter is turning 3, I'm going to be able to lift her again. And sure enough, I was. And he said, "This is crazy. There is no physical reason why you should be standing upright, much less standing on one foot on a wobble ball, being able to breathe." I had gone back to work. I mean, I was on light duty and, I was a teacher. So I didn't like walk around my classroom the way I used to, but I'd already gone back to work. I stayed out of work maybe 2 weeks after the surgery, and my head was still wrapped. The funny thing is, they
2 weeks. You just said. I kind of fluffed over that. You said 2 weeks.
Well, they cut my head open. They went down the side of my head on the left side, went around my ear, down my neck, split me open, literally laid me open like a piece of fruit. They cracked the skull. They took the nerve that went from my ear to the brain was infected, and it had infected some of the brain there at the site where the nerve. So they took part of that brain. They took now very, very, when I say they took part of my brain, it was like micrometers of flesh that they took. But they took all of that nerve out. They took all of the bones to hear with, and they literally took fat from my abdomen and put it in my head so that the side of my head wouldn't cave in. I mean, I'm literally a fat head. So I told myself, I didn't go through this for nothing. And here's the thing. This is how wicked my sense of humor is. I'm laying there. They have me, I'm not sedated yet, but they've already given me the medication. And, it's calming me down and getting ready so that the anesthesiologist can put me to sleep and everything. And the doctor said, "We're going to take a little bit of fat from your abdomen and put it in your head so that the head doesn't cave in." And I said, "Why stop it a little? Just go on ahead and take it all. This is why I'm in dire pain. I can't see." It affected my vision. It was like somebody put a bandana around my eyes. I couldn't see. It affected my hearing. I had no hearing in that side anyway, and it was affecting, very bad dizzy spells, vomiting, the whole 9 yards. And they try to figure out everything that was wrong with me, and they couldn't find it. And then finally the doctor said, "Look, we've got one choice left. We can do an exploratory." And I said, "Let's do it." And when they opened it up, they found all this damage. And so they took everything out that was damaged, and they literally, hopefully your listeners will understand what this is. When you are winterproofing your house, there's a little styrofoam thing that goes over your faucet on the outside of your house.
Yes, I know what you're talking about.
It's like a dome, right? Mm-hmm. They put that on the side of my head to cover where the ear was having to heal back, and they'd sewn everything, sewn my ear back on basically and all. And they had that on the side of my head. So 2 weeks after surgery, I'm still wearing this styrofoam dome on the side of my head, but I'm sitting in a classroom. And I'm like, okay, guys, we're going to do grammar today. Pull out your books. We're going to do, and when I went to the doctor, he's like, there's no way. And I said, yes, there is. Because number one, my God is bigger. And number two, my body knows how to heal itself. And number three, I made a determination and I made a deal with my body that I was going to be healed so that when my baby girl turned 3, I could lift her up and she could blow out her candles. Mm-hmm. So I don't care what your medical. Actually, he did write about me and put me in a medical journal.
I bet he did. He was probably like, I don't know where this one came from, but we need to document this.
That's it. And
hey guys, so I hope you enjoyed the first half of my interview with Marie Davis, and you're not going to want to miss the second half because it's just as inspiring as the first half. She is pretty amazing, guys. So anyway, I'm super excited to finish that off in 2 weeks. Next week, we're actually going to be live with Mr. John Crumpton, and I'm super excited. We've only done a couple of other live shows. I love them. I'm here for them. I live for them. We're going to do more of them. Spirit figures. So anyway, yeah, that's how excited I am. So anyway, so next week, join us on Facebook Live, and you can chime in, and maybe we'll answer your questions and say hi and all that kind of good jazz. But yeah, meet us on Facebook Live, coming in hot, and we will see you next week. And remember, you're not of this world.